Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Voice of People. I'm your host Gina Anayana, and today in our studio we're gonna have a beautiful conversation with Bree Melton, and she's from United Bay Community Credit Union, we so-called UBay. So Bree, welcome. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Gina, how are you doing?
Doing great. So for UBay, for me personally, I know you guys for last this is 30 years. I didn't know you guys, but we never had this kind of deep conversation to really talk about what is UBay and what you guys do. But let's start from you. Like, tell us a little bit of your background. Like, how many years you been with UBay, and how do you get involved, and what's your role?
Yeah, so my name is Bree Melton. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. I am the Community Relations and Marketing Specialist at United Bay Community Credit Union, otherwise known as UBay. I've been there for about 4 years now. It was kind of serendipitous the way I came into employment there. I absolutely adore it. I came home, it was the spring of 2021, so we were in the middle of COVID, and I had just graduated from my master's program at Central Michigan University.
CMU,
yeah, fire up chips.
Yeah.
And I came home and I was trying to find a job, and the job market was just very interesting at that point in time. And as I was searching, I noticed a marketing position come through for United Bay Community Credit Union, and I was like, oh, I've been a member there since I was a child. My entire family's been a member there for
great, perfect.
Long before I was born. And so I went in for my interview, and it was just, you could tell it was a perfect fit immediately. And one of the first things that I said in my interview is that this seems like a wonderful opportunity for me to give back to my community, give back to the community that raised me. So that's kind of what brought me into United Bay Community Credit Union.
Perfect. Now let's talk about, because you touched on your family and you, lifelong member.
Yes.
With UBay, which is awesome. But I want to touch on a little bit, because since you being member for the lifelong, tell us a little bit different between credit union versus bank.
Yes.
And also, the next question I'm going to ask you is actually the not-for-profit and a non-profit. I think before we dive into anything about your business, the service or the sponsorship or all the things meaningful for the community, let's talk about those two parts first, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So banks versus credit unions.
Yeah.
I was lucky. I grew up in a family that very much understood the difference between those two types of institutions, but I'm well aware that plenty of people don't necessarily know the difference.
Yeah.
So banks are for-profit institutions. So ultimately they are trying to turn a profit, as high a profit as they can, for the shareholders, which is basically like the big brother in the back room that wants to get in as much money as possible. So for that reason, when you go to a bank, especially if you are just an individual, you're not like a larger corporation, you are likely going to be paying things like higher fees on loans, higher interest rates on loans. You are going to get fewer returns on your savings account. So I have always found that it's not necessarily beneficial for your average small person, if you will, your average Joe, to be a part of a bank. Whereas with credit unions are kind of a beautiful thing. Think about them as almost like a grocery co-op, but for your money. Credit unions are not for-profit, not non-profit, but not for-profit institutions that are owned by their members. So when you join a credit union and you become a member of a credit union, you are a partial owner in that credit union. And seeing as you are a partial owner in that credit union, the credit union wants to please you because you're an owner. And so therefore you're going to pay lower interest rates on your loans. You're going to pay lower application fees, if there are application fees at all. And as well as getting higher dividends on your savings accounts. So it's just more beneficial if you are just your regular person to be a part of a credit union. And I think it's a wonderful thing to be a part of a credit union.
Well, thank you for so much for actually help us walk through, because myself, actually United We Go, our organization is a member of UBay. I, as an organization, it's very different from the individual as member versus organization with member. So I haven't really tapped into those so many details because there's no fee. Anything that I went through last 2 years, I never heard, never charged us a fee that I'm not aware of. Certain things I was like, wow, this is way different from, the bank, because we also have another company in the bank as well. I probably need to compare a little bit. But tell us a little bit the history of UBay, because I read through the intro a little bit, kind of like get a little bit understanding of UBay. You guys actually started very early, 1949, but not called UBay. So what's the story a little bit? Tell us a little bit.
Yes, so we actually just celebrated our 75th anniversary. Right? Yes, last year. And we have what I consider to be a very, very cool history for a credit union, especially for this area. So back in the 40s, there was something going on within the auto industry. We were having a strike, like an auto union workers strike. And a lot of people, unfortunately, were laid off of their jobs. Money was tight for people. And so at the GM powertrain plant here in Bay City, Michigan, basically what had happened is that a lot of people were laid off. So a whole bunch of coworkers came together. They took $5 each, pulled it together to help their coworkers in need during that strike. And that is essentially how United Bay Community Credit Union was born. We originally were called Chevrolet Employees Credit Union because it was a Chevy manufacturing plant back then. And essentially, that's how UBay was born. It is still, to this day, when you become a member at UBay, you have to put down $5 to become a member.
Okay, that's why I see another company that have $5 there.
Yes.
Is that why?
Yep, that is your member share, if you will. Okay. It's what makes you a member at UBay and what makes you a part owner at UBay.
Wow, so, that's wonderful. I didn't know. I was like, there's 2 accounts there, the $5 there. But what an interesting brand. What an interesting history of the UBay. So we're gonna take a little bit commercial break. We'll be right back. Thank you, and we'll be right back. Everybody, welcome back to this episode of Voice of People, and let's dive back into the conversation with Bree. Okay, so Bree, let's back to talk about a little bit of who's your client, right? Who can be enroll with you guys, whatever the service, what different kind of services you guys offer. So tell us a little bit about what is the scope of your client scope? Who can be your customers, like any age limit or open to all, right?
So that is a very interesting question, and I actually love that you asked it because I find that there is a misconception when it comes to credit unions. Back in the day, credit unions used to only serve like a very specific set of people. So back in the day, when we were Chevrolet Employees Credit Union, it was only Chevrolet employees that could be
members. Right?
Yes, exactly. However, that's normally not how credit unions operate nowadays. So for UBay, we are much more inclusive than we used to be. So our membership is open to all those who live, work, worship, or go to school in the state of Michigan. So I'm assuming that most of the people watching this would be eligible for membership at UBay nowadays.
We'll be surprised there. We have a lot of, because we are streaming these things all over the world.
Gotcha. Well, I'm sorry if you
but if you're in Michigan, if you have family members in Michigan, you're gonna, go with UBay. No, I'm not doing free commercial, by the way. But it just be clear, right? Only for people who's living here, study, school,
Yes.
here working in the state of Michigan. Okay.
Absolutely.
How many branches you guys have?
We have 6.
Okay.
So we have 2 in Bay City, which is, of course, where we were kind of born, if you will.
Yes.
We have 1 in Pinconning, 1 in Coleman, that is our newest branch, and 2 in the Kalamazoo region, 1 in Matawan and 1 in Portage.
Whoa, actually you guys spread out,
Oh, yes,
right?
we are.
Yeah.
We are.
So let's talk about it. I love that you touched the traditional credit union or back in the days now,
Yes.
how you guys operated. And you mentioned, I think it's through the conversation before you mentioned you guys also have, serving the community, have this financial literacy or financial education, right? Let's talk about that because not many people graduated from like finance, major, even though they graduate that if you are not in this industry, still a lot of things that you don't really understand, right? We're talking, not many people with good with numbers, I get it. Myself probably, I'm getting better. Well, share with us a little bit with this financial education towards the adults, and I think that's part also towards youth, right?
Absolutely, yes. We that's another portion of who we serve. There is no age limit to who we serve as a credit union. So when it comes to financial education, for our adult members, we have certified financial counselors on staff to help with any sort of needs that our adult members might have, any sort of concerns that they might have. We can help you work through that. And we also put on the occasional financial education workshop as well. We've done things especially targeted toward retirement because that can be kind of a complicated process. So those are kind of the services that we give for our adult members when it comes to financial education. Now with the kids, that's where we get to do some more what I would consider to be extra special fun things. So we have been involved in youth financial education for as long as I can possibly remember, probably longer than I've been alive. We have been involved with junior achievement with local schools for decades upon decades. And we just recently became partners with several schools in our area to help deliver financial education initiatives to those schools because there was a recent bit of legislation that came from the state of Michigan requiring schools to provide half a credit financial education to their high school students. And that's a wonderful thing, of course. We want our youth to graduate high school and understand how to manage their money. It's very important. But when that legislation was passed down, the schools weren't necessarily prepared to give that sort of education. So that's why we partner with schools now to send our staff into the schools, educate our students, and give them a bit of direction as to how exactly to manage their money.
That's beautiful because as parents, right?
Yes.
As I think the adults is the group people because everybody assumes they're gonna figure out. But I think the youth and always elder, that's a different situation. I'm glad that you guys cover all of that. And then in the future we're probably gonna bring you back and talk a little bit deeper more of each like service would be like what kind of people can benefit. But let's dive into some of the things you guys involved in the community such as sponsorship and also charitable donations because I feel like in the community you're giving back, right? You are founded here serving the people in the Michigan and giving back to the community is so important. So share with us a little bit like what are something you guys did in the past to support the either nonprofit or other school or other organizations in the community as well.
Absolutely. So I will kind of just walk us through some of our more major sponsorships throughout the year. I kind of got to narrow it down because in 2024 we were involved in 111 community events. So
that keeps you busy, right?
Oh, most definitely. I don't sleep. It's fine. But no. So narrowing it down to kind of our more major sponsorships. One of them is actually coming up. We partner with the McLaren Bay Community Foundation to provide the McLaren 5K run and walk. The proceeds from that run and walk go back to the McLaren Foundation.
Is the one with Joe Credit Union? No, that's
Nope, different 5K.
It's
We have
coming up.
a lot of 5Ks.
Exactly. I want to start another 5K too, because you know we go. So, but we will talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
But that is one of our major ones.
Yes.
Another one that we do is Sleep in Heavenly Peace. We partner with them to build beds for children who might not have
that's what I
beds
heard
in
too.
our
Yeah.
So that's something that we do normally toward the summer and the fall, typically, so we can get those beds to the children by the start of their school year. So we can provide those beds and they can get rest and so they can properly learn within their classrooms.
Yeah.
Another major one that we do is the United by Sacrifice concert out in Coleman, Michigan, which people might not be as aware of because it's a smaller community. But that one benefits the Coleman Veterans Memorial, which is a nonprofit that honors veterans and kind of educates the community on the sacrifices that they've made.
Okay, cool. And then the part of we'll talk about is the like donation part. Like, you know, of course, that's part of we do fundraising, right? For your member, do you guys also host some sort of fundraising with certain members if they are the member of your credit union? So touch on a little bit of those donation or fundraising events if people, maybe organization, nonprofit want to work with you guys. You know, we are
absolutely
for sure already in. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We provide both our staff an opportunity and our members an opportunity to donate to nonprofits in our area. So one of the things that we do is we choose a nonprofit to kind of give money to each quarter. We will sell candy to our members to raise money for these nonprofits, and we will allow our staff on Wednesdays each week to pay to wear jeans.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, because everybody loves their jeans, right? But we allow them to pay to wear jeans so they can donate to these nonprofits as well. In the 3 nonprofits that we chose for quarters 1, 2, and 3 last year were the American Cancer Society, the Children's Miracle Network, and the Alzheimer's Fund. But quarter 4 is a very special time for United Bay Community Credit Union, otherwise known as UBay. And we normally focus our quarter 4 donations toward Toys for Tots. And that one is a very, very big push because we want to help those kiddos in our community who might not be able to have a Christmas otherwise. So we dedicate our 4th quarter to fundraising for Toys for Tots. And in 2024, I am happy to announce that we raised over $7,000 to go toward Toys for Tots. And that is, of course, not including the literal toy donations that we donated to that organization.
How fun that, the whole experience involves so many organizations and nonprofits, so beautiful. So we're going to take another commercial break and then we'll be right back with you. Thank you. Okay.
Imagine a world where no child is waiting for a living kidney donor to save their life. Kidneys for Kids strives every day to make that a reality for every child in the United States. Imagine an organization that cares enough to drive thousands of miles in 2024 to continue our quest to help 100 or more children find their living kidney donor hero. Imagine an organization that will not stop advocating for children until every child has an equal chance to receive a kidney transplant no matter their circumstance. That organization is Kidneys for Kids. Find us now at kidneysforkids.org.
All right, everybody, let's come back to this episode of Voice of People. I'm your host, Gina Anayana, and we have Bree here. We have a beautiful conversation we're having, so we're still going to have beautiful conversation. So, I'm curious, okay? For the credit union, doesn't matter how many branches you have, but to be able to support 111, all kinds of events in 2024. And I would assume that you guys team have a lot of involvement. So let's talk about volunteers, okay? Because, for you guys to be involved to support, the team has to be probably very passionate about what they do. I would want to believe that. So tell us a little bit of how you guys get involved and how the employee come out to volunteer, because you shared it with me, with our organizations, like you guys, kind of have a couple hours for the volunteer to come out,
Yes.
kind of manually type of thing. So share us a little bit. Yeah.
So previously we've found our volunteers just through asking,
Yeah.
and they would volunteer their time for free. But as we have made volunteering more and more of a part of our mission and what drives us and what keeps us passionate about what
So
we
when
do.
did you guys start to make these changes?
Actually, we just initiated our volunteer time off program at the beginning of this year, so in January.
Okay.
And the details of that program, I think, are pretty cool. So I collaborated with our HR department to create this volunteer time off program, and we provide a certain amount of hours per employee to go out and just volunteer for something that they are passionate about out in the community. So our full-time employees are allotted 8 hours per year to go out and volunteer. Our full-time employees get the 8 hours. Our part-time employees get 4 hours. And they're allowed to use that volunteer time off to support whatever initiatives they want to support.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you a little bit questions just for you, okay? Because I have other questions to ask. But working there for 4 years, what is your favorite thing working for UBay? There's no right answer, guys, okay? Or what are some top 3 aspects that you really love this position or love working, for UBay, right?
Absolutely. So I have a few involvements through UBay that really drive me. So when I was a student at Central Michigan University, I was very specifically studying political communication, which kind of interesting that I ended up here, but there is an overlap. So I get involved with things like our governmental affairs conference for credit unions because there are a lot of things about credit unions when it comes to like governmental legislation that we have to constantly advocate for. So one thing that is always kind of looming over us is the threat of them taking away our not-for-profit status. And if they take away our not-for-profit status, we are going to be less able to do these things out in the community that we truly love doing. So I will do things like go to a governmental affairs conference to learn about the different threats within our industry. And I also am occasionally sent to Lansing and Washington, D.C. to meet directly with our legislators.
Really?
Yes,
wow,
yes.
What a cool position.
I know,
All
right? I absolutely love it. And I get to talk with them about credit unions and what makes us great and how we give back to our communities and how they can support those initiatives in helping us help the public.
That's perfect. Now I know why I asked you this question, to be honest. So you talk about that if they take away the status. What are the certain things that you will not be able to do so what kind of status would it be if you take away the not-for-profit, you guys gonna be for-profit? Then what are the things you cannot do if for-profit or less support? Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So if they were to take back our not-for-profit status, we would of course end up being a for-profit institution. And then that kind of takes away that boundary as to what separates us from these larger banks that really only care about things like profit. So we would be able to give back significantly less to our communities. So if we were to become, if we say something crazy happens and we become a for-profit institution tomorrow, we would be able to be involved in less events. We wouldn't be able to put on things like our bed builds for Sleep in Heavenly Peace, for our 5Ks, and really help out our nonprofits in our community. So that is why we fight so hard to make sure that we are remaining a not-for-profit institution.
And actually, this one I'm going to touch on a bit small business assistance because again, I think that will impact how you guys involved with small business assistance, right? So share with us a little bit, just like in current, where you guys are right now, how you guys support the small business, because a lot of small business, you also your members, right? So what are some assistance that you guys are being just given to them?
So our business department is relatively new for the credit union. Our business team only started within this department, I would say, probably about 3 years ago, and
Yeah.
they have blossomed into rock stars. All right, they do so much for the business community. They go really out of their way, and I think one of the best ways to provide that example is the fact that we partner with FHL Bank out of Indianapolis to provide grants to small businesses within our community. So there were 2 particular businesses last year that we worked with hand in hand to go through the grant writing process so that they could apply for grants to support their small business, get things like equipment that they might not be able to otherwise get to help them really support their business and their growth in their business as well.
Beautiful. What a blessing for you, being in, born and, founded in our community and then expand into, the Michigan State and being able to support so many events and work with nonprofits, support a nonprofit, fundraising for nonprofit, and also support the small business and also cover from youth to adults to, elder people.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's
We
truly
do
blessing.
everything.
Right? So you're doing great job, and you are also a very interesting person. I got honored to meet you.
I'm honored to meet you.
Okay, here, this is fun questions, okay? So what would you say to your 5 years old Bree? Like what if you can, back to time, what are something you're gonna say to her?
If I could tell 5-year-old Bree anything,
Yeah.
first of all, when grandma and mom told you that you can do anything, they meant it. Second of all, take hold of every opportunity.
Yeah.
Most of life is just showing up.
Yeah.
I would say probably about 80% of life is just showing up. And the opportunities will come to you and you need to take them. It's the only way you're going to grow as a person.
Well, Bree, you definitely showed up today, and you continue showing up ever since we collaborate with you in the last couple of years. Ever since I met you, you've been showing up, and then this is Voice of People all about. And I think you are perfect representative, from UBay to talk about, what they do, what you guys do, and then also shine just who you are today here. So thank you for being you, and thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Voice People. I'm your host, Gina Anayana. I'm so truly, my heart is still, thinking about a conversation with Bree. So don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Voice People. Thank you. See ya. Thank you.